Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Bitcoiner's Guide. This is the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. We're your hosts today, Big Sean Harris and Plan Marcus, and we have a special guest today, the one and only Trish Haines. Is that pronounced correctly, or is it Haines?
Haines, it doesn't matter.
Trish Haines. Haines. Oh, it matters. It matters. So Trish, Marcus, how are your trades going?
I quit. I only own Bitcoin now. But my trades got me to Bitcoin. Yeah.
That
Nice.
is the right trade to make. Marcus, how you doing?
I'm absolutely with Trish. I stopped trading, just stacking Bitcoin. Very boring. Try to accumulate. But it feels like a stable coin. I think we've been going sideways for like at least a month now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I imagine the traders are don't have much to trade
Or
either.
yeah. Yes, it's been a Bitcoin crab walk, that's for sure. And just to timestamp it for everyone, right now, today is currently July 24th. Where I am, it's 9:07 a.m. Central Standard Time, and Bitcoin's price is like $29,000. So it's been doing its thing. Today is it for many people don't know this. In Utah, they actually celebrate a day called Pioneer Day, and July 24th is Pioneer Day. So uh, you know,
And we also just mined block 800,000 as well.
yes, and 800,000 got mined like last night. And so Bitcoin's a pioneer species. That makes me think of Brandon Quittem. This will be a lot of fun today with Trish. So just wanted to welcome you in, Trish, and just kind of wanted to start out getting to know you and getting to know your story. We've been trying to talk to you for the last, I don't know, it's been almost, I think we
almost
started talking in what, December, and so now we're finally getting
Yeah,
on, and it's awesome. Go ahead, Marcus. What were you about to say?
I was just agreeing. I think there might be a little lag. It's 9 a.m. for you, it's 8 p.m. for me on the other side of the world. So I think there might be a little bit lag. No, I was agreeing with you. I think it was December that we
Mhm.
first all agreed, like, let's do this, and it took us a while. But Bitcoin doesn't die, and neither do we. So let's go.
Hey, hey, sometimes we die. We don't want to be martyrs. So Trish, I guess to start out, um, what is your background? I think a lot of people, it's kind of fun to understand Bitcoiners and their background and how they ended up making their way towards Bitcoin, or just your background in general, and how you ended up finding Bitcoin Twitter.
Hmm. Well, my background, one important thing about me is I'm a recovered alcoholic. And so my life path has been interspersed with reaching an alcoholic bottom. In 1985, I got sober for the first time. I was in Oklahoma City at that time, and I was sober for 8 years, but I moved to Austin, Texas. And after about 3 years in Austin, it's a party city, Sixth Street, and
Mhm.
I didn't go to AA meetings. I just wanted to fit in, so I started drinking again. And throughout the years that I was drinking again, I had a partner uh, for a couple of years, and he was Argentinian by birth. So we would go down to Argentina in our winters uh, and enjoy year-round summer. And it was on our
Cool.
second visit there in 2001 where the Argentine peso, which had been pegged to the dollar, got devalued 75%
Yeah.
in the first
Oof.
2 weeks that we were there. And
Was
so
that like an overnight devaluation?
pretty much overnight, yeah. We landed and it was 1 to 1, and within 2 weeks the banks had closed, um, and the peso was devalued 75%.
That's what
We
saved
had
us,
dollars,
right?
we were fine, we were Americans with dollars, so it
Yeah.
didn't affect us. But That was also the first time I tried to learn Spanish before going somewhere, which was an abysmal, laughable failure. But for 3 months, I sat surrounded by the middle class that were just in sheer terror and panic. If they had money in the bank, they could only get out like $60 a week or something. They were trying to get their assets, out of the country, but they were already too late to do a lot of that. And I came back to the States thinking it can happen here. And the internet in 2001 was not what it is today, but I searched how best to preserve one's assets, and it took me to gold and silver. And I started reading up, and I'm sort of like the same place I am in now, only I hope I'm more sane now than I was back then, because I was drinking and alcohol fueled the panic and fear and anger. And I was running around telling I was Chicken Little, the sky is falling, giving away gold, giving away, protect yourself, 20 years later, they've kicked the can
Yeah.
for 20 years. But I sold my place in Austin to move back to stay with my mother until she died back in Illinois. So I took the equity from that sale and bought gold and silver. And that's been the only money I've ever had in my life, beyond paycheck to paycheck. And being a good alcoholic, after my mother died, I decided I didn't want to live in this country. So I went to Canada and had an interesting story, which is a tangent I won't go into. But I frittered away a lot of the gold. But then when I finally ended up in Tucson, I got a job again as a legal secretary and quit spending or getting rid of the gold I had left. And I just quietly worked. Oh, I got sober in 2007, a month before I moved to Tucson. And so I had to quit politics. I had to quit the whole economy thing and focus on getting sober again and tune out what was going on in the world. So in some ways I went to sleep. In other ways, it was what I had to do to get back on a spiritual path, to save my sanity, and just to survive and stabilize as a sober person. So that was 16 years ago. And yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because a lot of times it seems like we do that even now, right? With what happens in Bitcoin, it's like we're so focused on one thing, and it helps us tune out all the distractions. And those distractions can really get to you, and they can almost keep you distracted. And it's almost like a play, like the bread and circuses, where hey, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that, and then it keeps you away from the true focus that you got to be focused on to preserve your actual wealth.
True.
Yeah. I have a question there, Trish, because you said you witnessed literally Argentina being devalued pretty much overnight by 75%.
Right.
That must have been, I don't want to say, sometimes I really miss like the English word, but that must have been quite an experience. And then you came back to the US and you just mentioned this can happen here as well. What I can imagine, I think a lot of people actually have a reverse thought, right? They think it will never happen to the United States because they have the dollar or we have the dollar. I tend to say we as well. I'm not an American, but right? But what made you think it could happen in the US as well back then?
Good question. I have no idea. My partner, he died later in early 2002. To him, I mean, he loved the dollar. Dollar is king. And I don't know what, maybe just because I had never studied anything about currency or economics. I don't know what in my gut.
Do you still think it could happen in the United States?
Pardon? Do I still what?
Do you still expect it to happen in the US someday?
Someday.
Because as you mentioned, they kicked it down the can for 20
20
years or
years,
22
yeah.
years or, yeah.
I think things have sped up incredibly, but I think the dollar is still, because it's still viewed by so much of the world as the strongest currency. You know, just like we view Bitcoin as the ultimate sound money, there's still a lot of people in the world that to them, the dollar is still the most stable. So I think
Absolutely.
the dollar will be around for a long time. But whatever that feeling was in me, some innate mistrust in banks or the government, I don't know. I don't remember that I had any political or economic leanings before that time. I guess I just feel like the emotional impact that I just sat there and absorbed of people.
Yeah.
Stirred some protective instinct in me. And, you know, the peso is the peso, the dollar is the dollar, they're both fiat currencies. So some survivalist instinct in me said, find something that's more sound than paper currency, I guess.
I think it's called common sense, right? Like it was pretty common sense. Hey, if it can happen there, there's no reason why it couldn't happen here. And one of the, and I think that's what Saylor talks about too. When he had, I think he said he lost $1 million during that same currency collapse in Argentina. And he was trying any way to get it out of there, even to buying a yacht and sailing it back and then selling it once he gets back to, to a different country. And his whole board thought he was crazy for saying that. And so I think that's what brought him to this side of, hey, you can't really trust the banks and you need to be your own bank, because if things go bad in your country, whatever country it may be in, then you lose all your wealth overnight and there's nothing that you can do about it. And we've seen that happen in so many countries throughout the world. And that's why, it's bigger than just the US dollar. This is a worldwide thing that's going on where currencies have collapsed around the world. No matter what country you've been in, you've seen it if you've ever traveled.
Mhm.
So at what point did you find Bitcoin? Because you had gold and silver. Bitcoin was launched somewhere in January 3rd, 2009.
Well, I would.
What do you remember when Bitcoin came on your radar? You're obviously already in the gold and silver world, but I don't know how active you were there. And we're definitely going to get to your Twitter presence, of course, because I know you're quite no.
I'm not aware of hearing about Bitcoin until well into the late teens. In 2009, I was still newly sober and working, and I was just zeroed in on that. I hadn't gold, like Sailor likes to say, or whoever, gold was just a dead rock sitting there, and I really didn't think about it or the silver I had. I quit selling it, quit spending it, and it just sat there. It was my little nest egg, and I was working to pay off debt. And so I went to sleep for a long time, I think, in terms of awareness of what's going on in the world. But then, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I knew I wanted to increase my financial worth. And I don't know if you guys know Publishers Clearinghouse. It's I wouldn't say necessarily bogus sweepstakes thing, but I don't know many people who really do win. But this was when I was home before COVID lockdowns. But I decided that if I approached it very disciplined and mathematically, that I was sure to win something. So I spent hours on the computer doing this mindless, mind-numbing entries on Publishers Clearinghouse. And the only saving grace of that is when COVID hit and the panic set in, I had something I could go to and just be on automatic pilot and do it. It gave me a sense of stability. But other than that, I didn't get a thing from doing it. But the timing was interesting because I finally decided sometime, probably spring or summer of 2020, that I was tired of Publishers Clearinghouse. And I quit doing it. And then I had nothing to fill my time. And I got emails from this one gold dealer, and he happened to mention he thought one momentum stock trader was funny. So I looked up that guy he liked, and I went on YouTube and found this guy and signed up for one of his courses. And then I became a stock trader.
Oh, really?
Well, that was definitely, I think, better for my mind than Publishers Clearinghouse, because I actually had to think and study and research stocks and all that. Well, I, of course, posted in that forum because I was very active and very psyched about it. And one woman from Hawaii posted something on that forum about Bitcoin. I'll never forget it. It was a Saturday or Sunday. And for some reason, I know I had peripherally heard about Bitcoin before then, but it just never impressed me. Something in her post, a light bulb, something clicked. And so I started researching Bitcoin, and I spent 15 hours that first day.
Oh, man.
Reading I could find about Bitcoin.
I want some details, because this is really fascinating, Trish, because like one of the elephants in the room, right? Like, yes. I'm just going to say it, is like, you're not like a spring chicken, or like if you compare it to like a lot of Bitcoiners out there. No, but I mean, I literally think that most Bitcoiners on Twitter are probably between like 25 and 45, I would say.
Yeah.
That's like the most of them, right? And also Bitcoin is quite a bit like of a technology geeky kind of thing as well. So we're always already saying like we need more women in Bitcoin, you know. Well, you tick that box, and then there's the age component. So I'm really fascinated, like, okay. And also, you know, maybe you can throw in a little tips here and there if there are like you know, I'm just curious, because if I look at other people in my life, and I'm just guessing, I'm not even going to guess what your age is, but
I'm 70.
those people,
not shy about that.
75. Wow, that's amazing. Like, I don't know any other 75-year-old lady that's into Bitcoin, right? So
yeah, that's true.
So I'm just curious, like, how would you explain that? Like, what makes you different? Or do you say, there's no reason for it, and any other 70-year-old person can do it as well? I mean, do you I have so many questions. I'll just leave it there.
Keep them going. Keep them coming, Marcus.
Well, for instance, like, do you, and this is obviously, don't dox anything, but like, do you run a node, or do you cold storage and all that kind of stuff? Or is it...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you do. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great.
I just...
She's a gold bug.
I want to go back to answer one question about what made Bitcoin, why me, why, and all I can say is in that first 15 hours of study, deep within me, I had the same feeling of knowing its rightness as I did when I discovered gold and silver 20 years before. When I discovered gold, it was $350 an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost 2,000.
Yeah.
Right? And silver was $4.50 an ounce. So there was a rightness in their knowing. And I just, when I thought about Bitcoin and started to discover the incredible facets of it, I had that same deep, and that's all I trusted, that I was on the right track, was that deep feeling of rightness. Because I had expected to die with gold and silver being the absolute best mankind would have. And when I discovered Bitcoin, it's like Sailor says, hope. I had lost all hope for humanity, and Bitcoin gave me back hope that we do have at least a fighting chance about what
specifically about that post from that woman from Hawaii, or when you
I don't remember
Was it
and
the sound money aspect, or was it?
I don't know. It was just like a lightning bolt, and it was meant to be. That's how I got sober both times. I never tried to quit drinking. I never tried to control my drinking. Both times there was this sense of a lightning bolt, and it said, Trish, it's time. And I said, okay. And I went to AA and I got sober. Kind of the same feeling with Bitcoin. It's time. This is it. Okay. Maybe it's partly spiritual because I got my first spiritual teacher when I was 20 years old in Santa Monica. And I've been, other than my alley and byways and highways, I've been on a spiritual path my whole life. And that's part of what I'm wrestling with this, because I mean, if it was just Bitcoin in an isolation tank, that would be one thing. But being on Twitter, and with the whole COVID and the whole vaccine thing and I've absorbed so much more of
Oh yeah.
political angst, that I find, maybe it's age too, I'm finding a need to balance the warrior in me with the person that just wants peace and serenity. They don't feel
Right.
at odds. I just feel like I need to work extra hard, because if I'm on Twitter too long, that warrior steps up and I want to fight, and I have to balance it.
Yeah.
What's real, what's true, what kind of person do I want to be in this life with every human being I come in touch with? So it's like, I don't know.
So
Yeah, I can
it
go
seems
ahead.
like you kind of just live in this world where you feel something and it becomes more passionate for you, right? It's almost like it's like a vibrational feeling, where it's just like good, like as we say, my generation at least, like it's good vibes, right? Like there's good vibes around Bitcoin, and it just seems to make sense. And I think that's once you really start to study it, things just start to fall into place. But it does take some study. I mean, you said like that first day was 15 hours. Has there been any other things that have just felt that way for you other than Bitcoin or gold? And
No. And I don't know why, like, I think some of my friends think, well, you're just obsessed with money.
Yeah.
And I'm not obsessed in that I want to be rich, or some reason I have a thing for the underdog, and I identify most of humanity as the underdog today.
Yeah.
And the sense that we'll never get anywhere until we get uncorrupted money. That's what's kept us in the chaos and pain that we're in.
Yeah, once you study, it just becomes
Money fixed the world. That's my first focus. And then we can create a fabulous civilization on top of that, but we can't do it without sound money.
and it does make sense, right? As we are all underdogs in a sense when we're using a broken or a corrupted money. And maybe the money isn't broken, maybe it's purposely, it is the way it is on purpose. And because as you can control the money, you can control human action. And that's the whole idea, is to have this higher power of control over the people by controlling the money. And I think that's what we're seeing with Bitcoin is, hey, as you get a money that is decentralized, that the more you have of it, you don't have any more control over the network, then you see that you can't control human action, and then men and women become fully sovereign, as we should be, which we've never seen before. So it's kind of like this new peaceful revolution in this new world that we're building to.
It's an amazing time to be present. I was going to say alive, but so many of us are alive, but not present to what's going on.
Is that why you like being on Twitter? Because it can kind of keep you in the loop of what's
Yeah. Oh,
be
yeah.
present.
Oh, Marcus had asked about self custody. Yes, I don't know how many years ago now, I got my ledger and withdrew my Bitcoin from the exchanges. And it was scary, but I just did it by the instructions on found YouTube videos. And then I sent a little bit to test it. And then well,
Yeah,
the recent ledger
perfect.
scare, I bought a new cold card.
Oh, wow.
And it sat there forever because Nat Brunel had mentioned that she was going to do a video on how to with cold card. So I waited, and sure enough, she and BTC Sessions did a YouTube video recently, and I listened to it, and I thought, oh, I can do this. And this is yesterday, the first thing we're setting up your pin, not even your seed words yet, but your pin.
Yeah.
Something screwed up, and I panicked. It's like,
Oh no.
I had no Bitcoin, or that wasn't the threat, but it's like I bought this cold card, and now have I ruined it? Is it unusable now? So I Twittered Ben BTC Sessions, and he asked me a couple questions, and I just had to walk away. I think I went and read my book, and then I came back. I left the cold card plugged in the whole time because I was afraid if I disconnect it, well, you know what. Anyway, common sense prevailed. My brain finally clicked in out of panic mode.
Yeah.
And I just started over and did it. And I haven't moved any Bitcoin to it yet, but at least I've got my seed phrase. It's all set up.
Oh, good.
Technology panic. I don't know if it's confined to boomers or just people that don't know technology, which mainly are boomers. Just like with anything else, it's a fear you just have to walk through. And there are people,
Right.
know that there are people here to help you. We've got, in the last 3 years, the content on YouTube of educational on all aspects of Bitcoin is phenomenal. So it's just like, you can use fear to let it shut you down, or you can pray however you pray to whatever you pray to, and walk through it, to it and through it.
But I would have to say, you say the content on YouTube is phenomenal. I agree, of course, but you do have to know who is Signal and who is the crypto scammer, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Nat Brunel and BTC Sessions are trustworthy folks, and they provide good content. But if you just go to YouTube and you just type in how do I cold storage my Bitcoin, that's super dangerous, right? Because there's a lot of scammers out there that's like, okay, download this software, send me your seed phrase. And so, yeah, I always worry about that a little bit. So, but you seem to have found your way around Twitter and identified all the plebs and I keep hearing a little phone sound. I don't know if that's you, Sean, or maybe you, Trish.
I think
Okay.
that's my the electricity here. We're a little iffy with the monsoon season. I reached out to a guy, Andy Hoffman. He had been with a gold company, and I'd met him down in Panama City at an international living conference. And of course, I had been a long-term gold bug by then. But I wrote to him. He left the gold company because they argued over Bitcoin. Andy wanted the company to represent Bitcoin and gold, and the owners said no, so Andy left. Wow. Went out on his own. And I somehow remembered that he left. I don't know if I remember that it was Bitcoin, but I did a little research and reached out to him because he is an avid Bitcoiner. Totally, he just hates gold.
He hates gold now.
Yeah, he guided me. He was the first person I followed on Twitter. I had never been on Twitter, but I read on his website all the Bitcoin articles that he had, and then I went to Twitter. That was a scary thing too,
Right.
Yeah.
and I followed him. And then I don't know how, I just read and started following people that seemed to make sense to me. And that, yeah, I have a lot of trust in many people on Bitcoin Twitter that if they recommend something, I will at least go check it out. I might not just go, oh, they recommended it, so I'll do it. But when enough people I respect, like with Cold Card, when enough people I respect say this is a good deal, then
So how did you, so when you got to Bitcoin, did you ever go down like the altcoin path at all? How did you know to
I
follow,
did.
how did you know
I
to follow like the Bitcoin only? Because you were trading a lot of stocks in 2020 and then you go to Bitcoin. I imagine you probably go to the altcoin sphere as well.
I got hooked into some email newsletter guru type thing. And he was pushing altcoins. He had also pushed, and I'm the best. This was just when I had first started on Twitter, probably. So I bought a bunch of alts that he recommended, very small dollar amount, but just to play. And they're still sitting. They went up and they're down, and they're still sitting on Coinbase. So I don't even look at them. But what a charlatan this guy is. You know, he proclaims I'm the world's foremost, da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know,
Is his last name Pal?
Tika Tuwari.
Raul Pal?
Ralph, yeah.
No, not Ralph.
He's
So
a Ralph
anyway,
type.
yeah.
Chico Crypto?
I bought it, and then I just realized pretty quickly this is really stupid.
Yeah.
But I didn't sell it, I just let it sit there. Sort of like I did my gold and silver mining stocks for the last 20 years. They've just sat there, you know. But because it wasn't a serious amount of money, and I didn't really care. But I did, in terms of stocks, the only stocks I bought after I discovered Bitcoin really were the Bitcoin MicroStrategy,
Yeah.
Mara, you know. But then I even gave up on those. I thought, no, I don't want any stock. I want fungible in my hand,
Yeah.
self-custody Bitcoin. And that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
But you can't
No
buy anything with
third-party
Bitcoin.
risk.
You can't buy anything with Bitcoin. So what are you gonna do?
That was going to be one of my next questions. Have you been to any of like the Bitcoin meetups, or have you maybe found some Bitcoin stores that you can pay with Bitcoin, or are you just hodling it? You know, I mean, a lot of people get a kick from spending their Bitcoin. Other people will say, no, you got to hodl it or spend and replace or whatever. But yeah, what's that been like for you?
I DCA a little bit on Swan and a little bit on Strike every day automatic purchases. So I'm still buying. I will still buy until I get back to my cost basis. Then I'll decide, do I want to take that fiat that I've been buying and use it to pay for living, but that's down the road, that decision. But I don't spend it. I haven't looked for any stores. It's like, you know, I don't have that much. I'm old, but I'm not an OG, you know, and I'm still in accumulation hodl mode, not spending mode. But when we get to the having party in El Salvador,
Let's go.
There we go.
yeah, I hope to be able to spend time both in El Salvador and a couple other Central American countries before or after the halving. And then I would like to find communities where I can spend some of the Bitcoin.
There's Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala as well. That's done really well. At least we've heard, you know, from Hodling Carla and Blakey that they had like that's really cool, a really cool city to spend Bitcoin, and there's a lot of Bitcoin stores. Okay,
yeah, another thing is, right, like if you go to whether it's food or you want to buy a beer or something, I mean, you can spend dollars, right?
Yeah.
Or you can spend, I mean, with those dollars, you could have bought Bitcoin as well. So I never really get the argument so much about like, I don't want to spend, I get it, but at the same time, you know, they're happy to spend $10 on a bear while, hey, you could have turned those into sats. But for me, it's just the fun of, hey, I've got some sats sitting in a Lightning wallet, you know, and it's cool if you can pay with Bitcoin, right? If I can pay that bear in sats, and I know the person I'm paying sats to is also going to hold those sats. He's not going to convert it back into fiat. So that, to me, that's always a kick. Or if I'm buying like Lightning coffee off of Jose in Colombia, you know,
Yeah.
who's trying to save in Bitcoin as well. It just
Well,
feels like a little. It's getting to a circular economy type thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm still stacking. It's not like I'm spending Bitcoin. I mean, I might as well spend it in dollars, right? It's also an opportunity cost.
well, I'm willing to spend, I would like the Bitcoin price to be a little higher before I start spending, but that's definitely something, along with Spanish, that's something I want to become more familiar with, is sending and
Right.
receiving Bitcoin. And I would wholeheartedly spend my Bitcoin with someone if I was pretty sure they were going to save it and not convert to fiat.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. What?
that's my idea of supporting the Bitcoin economy.
Yeah.
But that's down the road a few months. I haven't looked for any stores. Once in a while, I see a sign here on the store, we accept Bitcoin, but we have a couple meetups a month here, and I've been to them, and I'm just now starting to arrange coffee with someone I met there, and having coffee this week.
Cool.
So yeah,
Do you have any kids at all?
no, I've never had children.
Huh.
So I'm willing to spend Bitcoin once the price goes up some, more than most people, because I don't really have heirs apparent. You know, I
Uh-huh.
have nieces and nephews and stuff like that, but I'd rather support a growing Bitcoin economy than.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering because a lot of people think, and I'm sure, Marcus, you thought about it too, right? Like what, and even I've thought about it, and I don't have any kids, but it's like, one day, how do you pass that Bitcoin on to the future generations, And maybe that's a topic for another day, but it's just a thought that came to my mind right now.
Yeah, I'm curious though, Trish. Are you like the fun lady at parties that's always talking about Bitcoin, or are you trying to orange pill other people?
I don't go to many parties. I have the same circle of friends. I'd rather stay home and read or go to the gym or something like that than hang out and converse with a lot of people.
Wait, wait, wait. Are you going to the gym, and do you have like a steel pan skillet, or what do you call it?
Cast
Are
iron,
you
cast iron.
cast iron skillet? Yeah. Are you doing the carnivore thing as well?
No, but I have upped my food consumption. Um, I'm
Interesting.
not much of a cook, so it's like, okay, but what's the simplest thing I can do to make this edible, you know? So,
Steak in a
A
skillet.
steak on the grill is very simple. That's very.
no, no. When you're mobile, living in other people's places, you kind of, about all you take with you is your clothes and your personal
Yeah.
toiletries and items, it's like everything else is in
Right.
storage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I feel like Marcus asked me a question, but
I was asking if you are the ones that if you're orange pilling people at parties, and you said
oh,
you don't go much to parties, you go to the gym, and then
yeah.
I kind of interrupted you. I'm sorry
What
about
about your nieces and nephews and things like that? Have you talked to them about it?
I don't know if I wore myself out 20 years ago with the sky is falling with gold and silver.
Yeah.
Plus, I gifted a lot of people some Bitcoin in the last
Cycle.
high cycle, and a few people bought some. And basically my boomer set of friends, which are women I know from AA primarily, they don't have the capacity. I feel bad because Bitcoin went down after they bought. One struggles with even trying to log into Swan Bitcoin. It's just like, okay, I don't orange. I said my spiel early on when I first discovered Bitcoin, and now
Yeah.
I basically don't talk about it because it's pretty much
You,
not fun.
do you ever call them boomers? Are you ever like, stop being such a boomer?
No.
I'm just joking.
Yeah.
What do you think is
No,
the
you weren't.
what do you think the reason is why like a lot of people your age? I mean, there's a lot of people my age too that don't go for it, but even more so your age that are kind of off put to it. Do you know why? Or like any insight from your perspective?
Well, I feel like as I was starting to do in my whole publishers clearinghouse thing, um, and I noticed it with my mother as I was with her for 2.5 years before she died. You begin to shut down the world. You get tunnel vision. And part of that is just survival. Part of that is there's just too much chaos. I can't process it. Part of it is just fear. I don't want to, I just want to live the rest of my life stable and provided for, be, safe. So, and with myself, I still feel like, why am I even trying to be aware of all of this? There's nothing I can do. I can get upset about it and I can tweet about it, but again, it's that balance between warrior and just wanting peace and serenity. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's just not a clever little slogan.
Yeah.
It's pick your battles, moms like to say, and I haven't been very good at that, and that's why I think I get in there and then have to back away and just rest, relax, think about something else. Life's a marathon, not a sprint. And I almost burned myself out 20 years ago. So
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people, when you hit a certain age, it's just like, hey, this is my routine. This is what I'm doing. And I don't need any more information. Like my life is fine,
Well,
And
yeah, some of my friends are like that. I'm glad I'm not like
yeah,
that. I'm
yeah.
glad some curiosity, something spark has stayed alive in me. My friends probably look at me and go, "Oh God, she's crazy."
Happens to all of us. So
Yeah, but I can definitely relate, Trish. It's not, I don't think it's so much about like, I don't want to know more information. It's more about the battles that you're talking about, right? Like you see that there's like so much corruption and wrong in the world, and it triggers you, it angers you, and you want to fight it, and you want to get angry and upset about it. But at the same time, sometimes I noticed that at least with me on Twitter, because Bitcoin Twitter has so many tangents, like you mentioned COVID earlier, or whether it's like the climate hoax, and all these different topics, from politics to specific influencers or whatever. And we can get upset about everything. And sometimes, you just, yeah, if you're constantly in a battle, it takes a toll on you, right? Because being angry, I believe at least, if you smile, I think it's been proven that if you even fake a smile, it has shown to have like beneficial effects on your body. And if you're constantly angered or stressed, then that has a toll on your body and your the way you interact with people in real life around you as well. So I struggle with that too, and sometimes I just want to back away from Twitter a little bit as well. So I don't know if that's what you were referring to, but that's what you're hitting on my side when I hear you talking about that. So
What else do we need to talk about Bitcoin? What haven't we said about Bitcoin?
Okay, so do you have something specific that you want to say?
yeah, what does Bitcoin ultimately mean to you, Trish?
Hope for humanity. I mean, bottom line, it's our last ditch effort, our last chance at remaining free human beings. And there's no guarantee that it's going to work, but when I first discovered Bitcoin, I usually meditate with a group on Zoom every morning. And I remember early on with Bitcoin, I would be meditating and Bitcoin would enter my consciousness during meditation. And that gave me the sense of what a divine gift Bitcoin is to humanity. I don't want to get, because a lot of people wouldn't agree with that, but I have the very strong sense that Bitcoin is the divine's gift to humanity, that and it's up to us what we do with it, like with all gifts. I can use it to trade or just, keep my fiat mindset and
Yeah.
do the hustle with it, or I can let it lead me, just like Bitcoin, Twitter. You don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. Bitcoin has led me down so many avenues I never would have gone on, left to my own devices. I don't know that it's made me a better human being. It's made me more aware and more outraged at some things and more hopeful about others. But
So well said. Absolutely. And I think when people hear you say that, some people who are new to Bitcoin is like, wow, well, that's a big leap. That's like Bitcoin is all that for you. But people that are in Bitcoin completely recognize what you're saying because you come in with it like, oh, it's this technical thing, it's like money. But then the deeper you go in, you realize there are all these rabbit holes that it takes you down. And then it does make you more aware, like you said. And ultimately you see that Bitcoin really does change the incentives in pretty much everything in the world, right? And it has this potential of really changing the world to the extent that you were just describing. I'm just reiterating that for people who maybe are a little bit newer listening to this and are like, what is this lady talking about? But just to confirm, this is absolutely what I feel as well. What about and Sean, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but if I tell you Bitcoin memes, what do you say or what do you think? Do you like Bitcoin memes?
oh, are you asking me? I thought you were talking to Sean. Yeah, just
No,
before we
definitely you,
started
sir.
recording, someone started a thread of post your worst memes, and I was going through all that until I came here. I love memes. There's so much to love about Bitcoin Twitter. Even the toxicity. Some of it's bullshit. Some of it's just one ego clashing with another. But oh my God, the truth that's on not just Bitcoin Twitter, but expanded Bitcoin Twitter for me, with the COVID vaxes, I was, let me get mine so I can go out and, I bought the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel in the beginning. I was one of them zombies. And fortunately, after my first 2 vaxes, which I had no negative side effects from, I had read enough from doctors that were getting banned and deplatformed and ridiculed that made sense to me. So I thought, I think I'll just wait. I don't think I need a booster right now. So if it hadn't been for Twitter, and it infuriates me how legacy media can just cancel, like The Sound of Freedom, the movie, like what they've done
Yeah.
to, it's so, I
They
think
made that
that's,
movie like 5 years ago, right?
yeah, it's, it's astounding, and it gets me very angry. And that prompts the idea of, I want to go live in a culture that still has some other values. Maybe I don't embrace all of them, but that's not ruled by insanity. And I feel like our culture has become so insane in so many ways that I just, I don't have many years left on planet Earth, and I want to be somewhere where I can contribute, where I feel like there's hope, and they're trying to build something. I sit here in Tucson or look around and I go, what can I contribute to? What do I, there's all these causes, there's all this stuff here, and my heart is not compelled to give to any of it. I don't want to be involved in it. So maybe I'm hoping that somewhere in Central America, I will land in a culture that, because I loved it before, but 8 years is 8 years. What's changed? I don't know if it'll be right for me now, but I want to go spend the time to find out if there is some situation, some community, some culture that stirs my heart, and I want to contribute to it. That's all I ask of life, is just let me contribute to you, if I love you.
That's awesome. Okay, we normally do three final questions. And so here we go. We kind of gone over this a little bit, but we haven't asked specifically. So what did you read or listen to that finally made you swallow the orange pill that was like, oh, that makes sense now with Bitcoin?
I absorbed so much so fast. It's like a starving person cramming food in their mouth. So I don't probably remember any specifics until the Breedlove Sailor, What is Money series. I
That
think
was awesome.
that's the first one that just remained in my mind. I saw a lot of videos before that, but I'd have to say that, and just continued. Andreas, what's his name?
Antonopoulos.
Antonopoulos. I had a couple of his that I liked. Oh God, I even tried to watch Pump, but it was too glitzy for me. I just said, what is this frenetic bullshit? So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's that.
You can see through the BS, it seems like you got a knack for that.
Yeah, I think I do.
Definitely.
It saved me back in my drinking days when I was making some not good decisions. I think that instinctual guardian angel, if you will, something instinctual kept me safe in many situations where I was not safe. So yeah.
Okay. Well,
Also, Trish, do you have like any kind of like engineering or mathematical background?
Not at all. I'm terrible at math, and yeah. No.
No. Okay.
Technology of Bitcoin, I have to tune out a lot. I mean, I love them, but the developers, and when it gets technical, even Noster, it's like, I feel like as a boomer, I'm doing good to be where I am, and
you are.
I will take in whatever increments I can. But no, if I were young and now I'd be a coder, if I was a young person starting out, I would be, I would go that route, but it's a little late for me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. You got one, Sean.
Let's go.
Would you be able to explain the difficulty adjustment and how mining works?
Oh yeah, I can explain that. Do you want me to? Oh.
No, I believe you. I completely trust you.
No, it's
so, but that's what I was kind of like alluding to. Like for some reason,
let her know why you're asking the engineering question.
Well, it's kind of like this thesis I've been having, right? Like, it seems to me that people who have like an engineering or mathematical background they have a tendency to dive into like what are the rules of the Bitcoin game, right? And once you understand how mining works, that's one of the rules, of course, and the difficulty adjustment, how it self-balances. Then you understand why it's decentralized and why it cannot be hacked and why it's scarce. And then it all just clicks. At least for me, that was very important to understand, you know, those basic games of the Bitcoin rule set, basically. And my thesis was always that, you know, people who have a background in whether it's engineering or computer science or something with numbers, they're more inclined to get it. And we've interviewed, I don't know what, like about 50 plus people in the meantime, Sean. And
Yeah, more.
I've got to say that probably a good 40 of them do have that background. I don't know. What would you say, Sean? I don't know if you want to
Yeah, I
add to
would say
that.
like 90 to 95% of them do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Marcus and I have
So
this
I was just,
because I play basketball, and so I don't have that background, you know.
Yeah.
And so I get excited when there's someone who doesn't have that type of background.
It works for us too. Amazing.
Yes, it does. We're common sense maxis. That's how we figured it out. So okay, question number 2. How do you see a Bitcoin standard playing out?
Slowly, slowly, slowly. I feel like, you know, if we're the lifeboat over here and the rest of the world is in chaos and, you know, we can just sit there and watch, you know, the structures are going to fall. The fiat is going to crumble in various places at various times. And hopefully we can just go about our own business, building our communities. At the same time, everything else is collapsing, and there will be people coming to us from those collapsing scenarios, and we will just keep, just like TikTok next block, we're just going to keep building, to be the life raft or whatever, the ark. As more and more people, whatever their personal circumstances are,
Yeah.
their fiat identities are crushed. You know, we'll still be there waiting.
Okay.
very well said.
Yeah.
I would actually say it's like, is it a lifeboat, or are we just building like a parallel world that's maybe starts out small and a little bit shaky, at least not shaky, but it seems small and laughable to the old world. But
It
as we're
bounces on the
building,
waves. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that, I think that's right. We are building an alternate community.
yeah.
Okay,
All right, Sean, last question.
last question. So, you know, we've talked about how Bitcoin is obviously sound money, fix the world, and how it's going to keep working. But what if we're wrong? We have to be rational. What do you see as Bitcoin's greatest threat?
Well, there's the obvious government and banking manipulation. I don't think Bitcoin can be threatened. My ability to benefit from the number go up, if anything, might suffer. If you're in it for the long haul, if you're a young person in it for the long haul, and you safely stack self-custody, I don't feel any threat, at least not in our lifetimes or the next several hundreds of years. I think Bitcoin is safe and secure. How life in entities can try to mess with our experience of Bitcoin, pick a number.
Yeah.
So I had my gold confiscated when I tried to go from the US to Canada. It was my stupid unawareness. I hadn't calculated. But when I read that Bitcoin was unconfiscatable and I started studying that, that made an incredible, I can tomorrow go anywhere in the world and my Bitcoin can go with me. My gold or silver couldn't.
Did they
Right.
confiscate all of your
Was
gold when you?
incredible. Oh, no, I didn't take, I just took a certain amount, but I didn't report it going into Canada, and I hadn't calculated how much I had on me. You know, I was just going back to Canada. Oh, they're going to
And they
welcome
just,
me with open
and they
arms.
just took,
I said,
and they just
"Uh-oh."
took it from you?
They confiscated, so that's a whole other tangent story. Yeah, they confiscated it, they had to send it out for appraisal because this customs guy had never seen anyone smuggle gold into.
Smuggled, like, this is
International
my
gold
own
smuggler.
money, you
He
know?
got to practice his terrorist techniques on me. They didn't let me get off the ferry. I had to go back to Seattle for 2 weeks and sit in a hotel while they appraised my gold. And then I was only allowed back to get my stuff and get the hell out of Canada.
Did you get your gold back?
75% of it. They fined me 25%.
What?
Yeah.
Really? Oh my God. So
So
they're literally just stealing
great
from you.
They just,
argument
yeah,
for unsustainability.
Wow.
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yeah, take that, Peter Schiff.
And that wasn't even that much gold. Imagine someone with a lot of wealth and gold trying to get it anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's the issue.
ridiculous.
It's not portable, right?
Nope.
It doesn't come close to Bitcoin's capabilities. Wow, that's a great story, Trish. Thank you so much for sharing that. That and the Argentina story.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I wish more people had those kind of experiences because I do think, you know, experiencing and seeing those kind of threats firsthand definitely makes you more aware of. I think a lot of people just feel safe because they also always had their money in the bank. It
Mhm.
seems really stable. They never had anything confiscated or inflated away. Well, at least not as rapidly as 75% overnight, but just that slow, insidious little, you know, 2 to 5% inflation, and they just think it's normal that prices always go up. Yeah, that's just life, you know. And they don't really see it as the bank's fault or fiat's fault, and they're just still asleep. I really enjoyed this conversation, Trish, and you know, I always miss like I'm not as eloquent as like a Brie Love or Preston Fish who can like compliment their guests, but I I do want to make an attempt, you know, and I always enjoyed following you on Twitter, so I think that was one of the reasons you always caught my attention, you know, like seemed like a very based lady, and obviously because you're a lady and a little bit higher in the age bracket, I was always fascinated by, wow, this is so cool, you know, like this Bitcoin community is just awesome. And now I haven't talked to you, it's even more so. So thanks again for sharing that, and a lot of compliments to you, you know, for figuring that out, and yeah, just doing it
Definitely.
all, and
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Please take over for me,
Yeah.
Sean. Finish it
Yeah. No, Trish, yeah,
because
thank
I'm
you.
missing the words here.
Yeah, thanks. You know, it's been a pleasure having you on today. It really does mean a lot. And it's like Marcus said, you know, what we like to do is people to talk to regular people that have their stories and can talk to us and tell us their stories. So it's been awesome. Give people a handoff where they can find you if you're working on anything you want people to know about. Um, or they can just find you on Twitter, I imagine.
Find me on Twitter. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Trish Haines.
awesome.
And you mentioned the having party. Is that definite?
Yes,
Yes, awesome, awesome.
I
Well, I
will
look
be at
forward
the
to
having
meeting you there.
party, health in all circumstances. I've got my ticket and my hotel.
Let's go.
So
Have you been to El Salvador? Is this your first time to El Salvador?
my first time to El Salvador.
Okay.
Is there going to be some kind of help? Like I'm going, okay, how do I get from San Salvador to wherever the having party is? Is there shuttle? Are there, but some kind of information needs to be provided to attendees to how to get to us.
Yes, yes. There's definitely ways. There's different buses you can take or taxis as well. And we can show you the,
If the having party can put out something, you know,
yeah, okay.
close to the time to help people
Well,
like me.
yeah, that's a good idea. We'll put out more. We have put out some information, but we'll definitely make sure that we can put out as much as possible so people can know. I think that's a really good idea.
Marcus, are you going to be there?
It's I would put it at like 88% sure that I'm going to be there. It's not a complete 100% yet, but yeah, most likely I will be. Yeah.
I'm so tired of looking at your picture.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it going to the having party just to see the real you.
He's a good looking
So
man.
many people
The
are.
whole time, yeah.
Yeah. He looks just like his picture.
It's always funny at meetups. They're like, "No way, that's you," and then yeah, that's the reaction I get all the time. So it's funny.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Trish, and for everyone else listening in. Remember, we have the Meme Factory podcast that goes live Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Remember, like, subscribe, share this out with people. I know Trish gets that reference. So thanks again. And as for Bitcoiner's Guide, episode 56 from Trish, Plan Marcus, and Big Sean, we're over and out.